All right.
All right, everyone.
Welcome to
the Black
Multiverse Theory Podcast.
Your face was funny in that moment. Welcome to the Black Multiverse Theory Podcast, where hosts Nigel and Nilo explore current events through an Afro-Canadian lens. In shoutouts, we catch up with the community, creating a space for connection. The scroll dives into social media, current events, and celebrity news. Always actual, but not always factual. On the screen, shares our latest watch list, while in our ears, explores the sounds shaping our world. The podcast culminates with an uplifting message, leaving listeners empowered. Thanks for tuning in for our insightful analysis and a vibrant perspective on the Black experience in today's world.
Yeah. All right. Glad to have everybody back. I'm glad to have our studio audience with us
Thank
today.
you all for joining us in here.
Thank you. We are having a great day. Shout outs right now. Shout out to the final game of the U15 Steel Heights Tigers, where my son scored 2 out of the 4 goals to win the game against the undefeated rival team, Fraser. And thank you.
Yeah,
We busted that up. Nashawn did his thing. A lot of people think of my son as, and he's my oldest, they think of him as being like, he doesn't run like everybody else. He doesn't, he's not in position, but he is. And he's a smart player. He's a very intellectual player. So even though he's not running back and forth, he's always in the clutch spot, in the clutch position, and he's always scoring. Almost every game this season he has scored, and it's undeniable that he's always in the right position. He's a smart player, and that's what's good. He's also an excellent coach, and hopefully one day we'll coach together and we'll get it done.
Oh, that would be very adorable.
That would be. Was that me?
That is you.
So that is Nashan.
Oh, okay. I thought that was him texting you.
No, that wasn't him. So that's basically it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What else you got? That's it for shout outs for you.
That's it for shout outs for me.
Okay. Big shout out to Uncle Bill from Standing Bear. Yeah, just a big shout out to him. I think I'll be seeing him later on this week. I guess, yeah. I will be, I think. And a big shout out to, that's it. Big shout out to Windy Point Soap, who I buy my products from in Calgary. They literally have overnight shipping. Not buy my products, but buy some of my ingredients. And they're like really efficient. So yeah, big shout out to them. Shout out to Aaron David. Oh my gosh. Shout out to Aaron David at Bent Arrow. Bent Arrow had me inside the place today, talking about natural hair, talking about black hair, and really talking about the history of black hair. And I tried to balance it with some juxtaposition of what was, and it's not really a juxtaposition, but like some insight, I should say, as to what was also happening at the same time with Indigenous folks and their hair, especially here in Canada. So yeah, that was good. I felt like I could have done better, but everybody was quite happy with it. So yeah, I guess it is what it is. So thank you to her for inviting me to do that. Also, big shout out to Tim. Tim Noel was performing after my kind of session, and Misha and the rest of the rear views that were there today, including our boy
O'Shane
on the drums. Yeah. I don't know why his name just fluttered out of my brains, but I was like, hi, O'Shane. He's like, so I didn't get to tell him a big congratulations, but he's gonna be a proud papa.
Nice. Yes. He
Yeah,
did put that on the
that's
internet.
on the socials. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not repeating anything that's like secret. Yeah, so
Nice.
yeah, shout out to all of those people. Are you ready to move on to the scroll?
We are ready to move to the scroll.
You went through the scroll word very quickly.
The scroll. Nice. Well, this week on the scroll, we got a couple of things that we had come up, especially locally here in Edmonton. Edmonton, we had our second winter snowfall. We had our first cold snap. That's when the temperature dropped to -40 and felt like -50.
Mm-hmm.
And it was devastating. A lot of cars broke down. It looked like a post-apocalyptic scene where all these dead cars were in there in the streets and nobody was in the streets.
Dead cars, yeah.
So they were all there. And then now we had this, what is called a snow dump, where we had almost 2 feet of snow fall
Yeah.
in a 24-hour period. And you can gauge that by stepping out in the snow, and then it like
It's high.
it's high
I gauged
by your
it.
knee.
I gauged it by Sunset standing in the snow and literally having snow like all up her belly, up to her shoulders. She was like, "What is this?" I think probably one of the first times in her life that she's had that experience.
Yeah, it's crazy snowfall. My vehicle kind of got stuck a few times. I got to check those tires on the vehicle because it's treacherous out there. You got to be able to drive safe and to have winter safety driving. So if you have children or if you are learning to drive yourself, and there are people out there wanting to teach you, make sure you get a summer course and then take a winter safety driving course as well.
Mm-hmm.
I had that. I always say this probably every year. It helps because it teaches you to stop in a reasonable amount of time, the speed you're supposed to be going. I've watched people today do some of the most horrific things on the road and then wiping out. There was a guy last night, he must have been drunk. His whole truck, he was speeding down and his whole truck started to fishtail. And he ended up running through a red light and then turning the corner. Luckily, it was late at night, so nobody was on the road for him to like get in an accident. But it was terrible.
That's tough, man.
Yeah. Also on the scroll, we have Justin Trudeau coming out and letting us know that there's going to be an online harm fines
Okay.
for people who do egregious acts online. You will have a $70,000 fine
Added to the list, hey?
added to the list, as well as life imprisonment, maybe, depending on how egregious the atrocity of your online shenanigans
Did you say
place.
life in prison?
Yeah.
Not life in prison.
Yeah.
Let me go back here to this post. You're kidding. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Life in prison.
I think that is way overblown.
Well, I don't know. It depends on what happens and what you've done online.
Life in prison?
People do weird stuff online. They most certainly do. So it's just a matter of like, what are you gonna do?
It's a lot. I will say that. I think the life in prison is still a bit much. I think some of the things that folks do online, if it manifests itself into like a live situation, you know what I mean? Like people go tell people to like do all kinds of things to themselves, and sometimes the people do. Then that is another thing. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think that would be considered under the Harms Act. That would be considered an actual like crime that already exists.
Maybe. Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like a life sentence for online bullying is a bit excessive. But
Well, they're not just saying online bullying, right? They're talking about egregious acts online. So there's other acts like stealing everybody's money out of the thing, or hacking into somebody's thing and making sure a death happens, or hacking into the light system and changing it, and then people die. There's all sorts of things that can happen online.
Fair enough.
There was one guy that was sitting here in the chair at Aphrodisiac, and I was talking to him, and he was talking about his friend who they were having a beef online, and the guy said, "I'm going to come to your house and I'm going to end your life."
Oh my gosh.
And the man said, "Do it." And the man came to the guy's house, walked in the front door.
Yeah.
He's a kid, by the way.
Okay.
Walked to the front door, killed the guy, and then the whole family was there. So he's like, "Wow, I can't have any witnesses." So he killed everybody there.
Everybody?
Yeah. Real story in
That's not,
in
I don't
Toronto.
know if that's online harm. That's what I'm saying. Now we're rolling into like
We're
the
into
IRL
murder.
crimes that exist already.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think that, and that was an example of what you were talking about.
Yeah,
there.
yeah. But I understand the other things you're talking about too, though. Like, yes, there's a lot of ways. Also, like revenge corn, and those like things of that nature. Yeah.
Yeah, like a lot of people have been taking videos of themselves doing certain things, and then it's in the safety of that relationship, and then the relationship ends, and now you've released it to the world. Those kind of things are
right. I don't know about life, but yes, I appreciate that.
Well, $70,000 is a lot too, depending on who you are.
Yeah,
that could be a life sentence on its own.
In and of itself, to be honest. All right, what else we got over here?
Also, we had a deer enter into
a swimming
pool and jump into the pool, trying to escape all of the white peepals that were all around.
Yes.
Trying to capture it.
Poor thing.
It was scared, and it was running around,
skating
across the thing.
Yeah, jumped in the pool.
And its eyes were like all burnt chlorine all up in the pool.
I was thinking about the chlorine. I was like, oh my gosh, is this it for this deer? Like, even if he escapes, or like, what's going on? And people are trying to help him, and he's just like scattered all over the place.
Nope.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Was no good for that man. Sorry to that man.
Shout out to Kyle Smith and Keisha who are watching.
Amazing.
Shout out to them.
Yes.
Yeah, but it is wild out there. So literally that was a wild animal. So be careful of who you let into your pool. It's the moral of the story.
Yeah, so our current Alberta government announced, actually the federal government announced that they will now be covering prescription costs for people with diabetes and for birth control pills.
Right.
Everybody was happy. Many people were happy. They were excited. The NDP keeps pushing. They've got dental. They've got this pharmacare coverage coming over to us. But Danielle Smith not only hates the government, but she hates us too, and has decided, I'm sorry, say it another way. And she has decided that we do not need this help.
Right.
But we do, Danielle. We do. And so she's not taking this help from the government, which I kind of suspected that something would happen like that. But I didn't suspect that it would be her blatantly being like, no to prescription meds.
Yeah, I don't know who's her advisors, but I don't think that's the way.
It's a big L, man.
It's bad.
It's bad. Think about how many people use birth control, and think about how many people have diabetes. Like, mad people have diabetes. And what I noticed is people with type 1 diabetes, not people with. But online, there's people with type 1 but diabetes that are like, well, unlike the people with type 2 diabetes, I can't control my diabetes, so I should at least me. And I'm like, buddy. Get over yourself.
Well, you type the type 1s versus the type 2s.
I
don't
never
know.
knew it was a thing that I've entered into.
I didn't know that. I don't think
It's a
anybody
thing.
knows it's a thing. But
Yeah, apparently. I'm seeing it on the internet.
they're jealous of the type 2s.
No, they're not jealous of the type 2s, but type 1 is like insulin dependent. So type 1 is like, uh, the type 1 people are like, I actually legitimately have something wrong with me because my pancreas does not work.
Mm-hmm.
But they feel like the type 2 people just have this fat issue. If they would just stop being fat, which, by the way, we've tried. Like, I've been trying to not be fat my whole life. So they're like, oh, if you're just not fat, then you won't have diabetes.
It's different. Type 2 and type 1, they're different,
Yeah.
but both very serious. So
Yeah, but it
We'll
was
work on it.
interesting to enter into that conversation on, well, not enter into, but at least to see it. I was like, okay, I didn't know this was actually a thing. But it's a thing.
it's a whole thing.
It's an actual thing. We also have Westlock. You want to talk about the town of Westlock?
Sure. The town of Westlock apparently has signed for a ban for the LGBTQ pride crosswalks that you see all over Edmonton. And apparently they had some in Westlock, and the people didn't like the colors of the rainbow on their streets. They didn't like running it over with their cars or walking on it. So they voted to ban it, which has caused a little bit of a rift, but it also shows the way how Westlock is thinking is kind of in a backwards momentum. So
Yeah, they're definitely on the other side of where we're going.
Yeah.
They're trying to pedal backwards.
yeah, they're really going in a futile move. I find this very futile. So
Okay. Yeah, I said Westlock hates the rainbow. This week we also had outside of local, young
that was a
man.
lot of local.
It was a lot of local, more than usual. A young man named Aaron Bushnell or Bushnell, who was a service member. Actually, if there's kids around, now's the time to move the kids away. By the way, he actually poured gasoline on himself and set himself on fire at the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C. And his last words were, "I will no longer be complicit in genocide. I am about to engage in an extreme act of protest, but compared to what the people have been experiencing in Palestine at the hands of their colonizers, it's not extreme at all. This is what our ruling class has decided will be normal." He yelled, "Free Palestine," and then
Lit himself on
lit
fire.
himself on fire. At gunpoint, by the way, because the people had him at gunpoint.
Oh,
Yeah. So, that
why
I
did
did
the
not,
people have him on gunpoint?
because they thought he was like an extreme protesting, right? So, yeah. So that this is what is happening now. This is sort of where we're at in this conflict situation, and it's sad. It's sad. It's like super sad, I think.
Yeah, it's very sad. What's happening in Palestine is egregious and terrible. And I think a lot more needs to be done. Our political stance needs to, and our politicians and the people, our leaders of the government, they need to take more of a defined role in how they're going to deal with it, and why they're, and really second guess why they're doing this. A lot of people are not for what's happening in Palestine, so they need to listen to the people.
I think so. But Canada and the US have a lot, there's a lot in there for them. So they have a lot of skin in the game, as the people say. Okay, well,
Yeah.
I also, the last thing we have today Are those Diddy allegations?
Diddy.
Did
D,
he?
the what? The
Is
I,
the
the D,
question.
the I, the D, the Y, the D. It's Diddy.
Same very one. Aaron David just messaged me and said how happy she was and thankful. So
Nice.
thank you, Aaron. And thank you, Bentero. So there are new allegations against P Diddy,
Okay.
aka Diddy, aka Love, aka Brother Love, and the person who is alleging now, if you don't know, Diddy is the producer of Bad Boy. He's had several sexual allegations cases going back years, including the most notable recent one was Cassie, his ex-girlfriend, who he ended up settling a $30 million suit pretty much within 24 hours of the filing of the suit. This is another suit that was filed by a guy named Lil Rod, who produced 9 tracks on the Love album. First, he came out and he was saying that he should be celebrating because he has a Grammy-nominated album, but he was having problems and he was fighting for his publishing.
Wow. Okay.
So it turns out they weren't paying him, and then the man went to an attorney. He was crowdfunding for his attorney, and the attorney said, "Let's get him for everything. Let's drop dimes." So Mr. Little Rod dropped all of the dimes everywhere.
Wow.
Yeah. So the thing about it, I think that stand out, number one, I'm going to go through a couple of the things that he said in a minute. One of the things that stands out about it generally is that he has photos and video. So he said he has hundreds of hours of video, and there were photos in the suit itself, like in the pages. Normally, as far as I've known, the photos are presented during the actual case itself. In this case, the photos are actually in the complaint or the suit itself. So those are, yes, that was a thing. Obviously, Diddy's people came out and said that they have unequivocal evidence that what this guy is saying is false, and they tried to get a hold of the man's attorney, and the attorney won't return their phone calls. So some of the things Little Rod's alleging that Diddy did, number one, was making him stay with him and sometimes working like 24 hours. We also making the band. We know that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Those people were like walking from Harlem to Brooklyn for cheesecake.
Yeah.
Okay. The next thing that he said is that Diddy forced him to like work on the music in the bathroom while he showered in this glass enclosure. He also like physically assaulted him, touching all of his bits, his front bits and his bum bits as well. He also said that Diddy was trying to groom him into a homosexual relationship, and that he showed him a video of, this is the first person, Stevie J engaging in acts with a man, and said like, look, kind of in a we all do it kind of a way.
Wasn't Stevie J married to Faith, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Stevie J was a hit maker, if you guys don't know. Back in the day, he made a lot of
hits.
So he also said, he claimed that Diddy said that he'd also had this relationship, this kind of relationship with other people. For example, he said Usher. These are names that were redacted. Usher's name was redacted in the thing. Yeah, but he said Usher. He said Meek Mills. And he said, I think that's it for that part.
Chris Brown?
Nope, there was a listening party. At the listening party is where Chris Brown was, allegedly, all alleged, in the suit. And in the suit, it says that Chris Brown was there, and there were underage girls there. So when he says underage, he says under the age of 16. 16, which is definitely
a lot of questions there.
Something like, not off brand for what we know of Diddy.
Who's letting the child be there?
Okay, but you're saying that, but at the same time, we have single parent households. We have people who are working 1, 2, 3 jobs, and we have people who are working second and third shift. So when you're expecting your kids to be home and she's up the block at Diddy's, how do you know when you're in the ER, when you're in Emerge and you're working Emerge all night?
I guess that's quite the story. If it's true, I hope.
If what's true?
The story you just proposed right there. All I said was, where are the parents? Like, who let the child go out?
Yeah, but I'm saying there's a lot of instances where parents may not necessarily be involved in the child leaving the house.
I get it.
Yeah, so he said all of those things. He also said that Diddy was lacing the drinks at the parties, and that Diddy had a separate like set of drinks for like his staff versus the girls, the S workers and the other girls. The underage girls had a different set that was spiked. He said that he was left alone on a yacht with Cuba Gooding Jr. and Cuba Gooding Jr. pushed up on him and also started advancing in different ways. He said that Carisha's cousin or assistant, he doesn't know who exactly she was, also sexually assaulted him.
Also known as
Young Miami.
Young Miami.
Yeah. And then as well, he's accusing them of running a RICO operation, saying that he saw pow-pows, he saw guns, and he saw drugs, that Diddy and his team were like loading off to pretty much gangsters, members dressed all in black, and telling them that they have to distribute this on the street. And he says Diddy admitted to shooting Shine himself, or shooting the club shooting himself that Shine, the rapper, actually went to jail for. And he said that Jennifer Lopez is the one who handed Diddy the gun. J-Lo.
Not allowed to talk about it.
People said Jetty with the Glock.
Jetty with the
J-Lo
Glock.
was over there not thinking it was going to get as hot as it got. It got hot. It got hot. And she walked away and she never looked back.
She walked away.
That lady never looked back. She tells a story about him trying to get her back, and anyway, that's another thing altogether. Yeah, so the man, this was over about 18 months between 2022 and end of 2023. Wow. And I thought to myself, like, Diddy also has a complaint that's very similar for a personal chef that worked with him. Oh, he also said that he had to go gather S workers for Diddy, and he would wear this special Bad Boys baseball cap, and when the workers saw the baseball cap, they would like know the bad boys in town. Yeah, and I think there was one more bit, but I can't even remember now. But and there's another bit, which is that Diddy and Justin Combs, I don't know if you guys remember, a little while ago there was a shooting that was allegedly at the studio where Diddy was at, and then they were like, oh no, the shooting was outside. Well, the shooting allegedly was inside, and not only did they make up a story about the guy running inside the thing after he got shot, the NYPD was there for like hours and hours, and they ended up going with Diddy's story. The story never changed. So the guy is also saying that there's collusion between the police in LA and in New York, because Diddy's like, this is my boy, he makes stuff go away.
Wow.
So he's essentially suing Diddy, the president of Universal Music Group, the old president of Motown, Diddy's Christina Coram, like Diddy's manager,
Mm.
And I think that's it. But in any case, yeah, it's 73 pages. The way it is, it's like I said, either none of it is true or it's 100% true, because
It's a
it has
lot.
so much information. And he's like, he's just, when I say dropping dime, he just dropped change all over the floor, like
Mm-hmm.
all over. And I'm concerned for the man's life, to be honest.
Wow. That is a lot of revelation from this guy, but he's been there for a long time.
Yeah, 18 months.
18 months, is it?
Yeah,
That's
22
actually
to
not a long
23. Not that long. He was just there trying to work. I just like see him there trying to work on this album.
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile, all this craziness is going on. Diddy had a lawsuit from a personal chef who said a lot of this stuff going on. She had to go in and serve people after they finished intercourse, and all kinds. People come in the kitchen and ask her questions about their anatomy while she's cooking. And she had to cook from 9 a.m. to 2:30 a.m. Like, she had to be available for him. But can you imagine, like, just trying to do your job at a high level? Because it's Diddy.
Yeah.
It's a high level. Like, I'm working for a billionaire.
Yeah.
And then you can't do your job because there's just all this chaos happening.
That is wild.
Anyway,
I wonder who else is going to come out.
this was like jaw dropping, to be honest. 73 pages. It's a lot of information. Every paragraph was like, oh, who, what? Every single paragraph. And yeah, I hope that man the Grammys are over. Hey,
Yeah.
So sorry that man did not win a Grammy, but at least he's a Grammy nominated producer, if nothing else, and he'll work on it.
It was a very good album. That's why we knew something was up.
I knew it. Did I say this?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this album, just something about it.
It's a good album.
I called it. But it's a good album, I guess. I listened to it just enough times to know that something was up.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. And that's it. I think that's it for our scroll today.
That's it for the scroll.
All right. Are you ready to move on to the screen?
Mm-hmm. All right. We are on the screen. And the screens where we're talking about what we watch. What's on our social medias, what we're doing. Well, Netflix just came out with Avatar: The Last Airbender, the live action series.
The series.
And it is actually not bad. People are commenting about, some of the people and what they look like, and they don't look like the cartoon, but to be honest, it's a cartoon.
Even the cartoon doesn't look like the cartoon. The first few, the earlier seasons don't look like the later seasons, and they never do.
Well, and I say this all the time, the writers, the illustrators there, they get better, they get more technology. Like, from when they started to when they ended, the technology increased, the computers increased, so it's a little bit more defined. You get to see a lot more of their hair blowing in the wind. It's quite interesting when you watch it.
How it progresses.
How much detail they start to put into each scene.
Right.
And then when you get to the final scene in the cartoon with Aang and the Fire Lord, it is such an epic battle that you're like, what is happening? And it just goes wild. Now, a lot of people are looking at the live action and they're like, but the live action doesn't start like how the cartoon starts. It starts off intense in the middle of a war with spies and all sorts of stuff to give you a little bit of background before they even meet Aang. And then the people who they have playing the cartoon characters, they're actually pretty similar. It's actually very, very close. It's only a couple that may not look like it, but it's actually pretty good. Along with Kim Convenience star, the father who stars in there, he's actually playing the grandfather, or the uncle, sorry, Zuko's uncle. So and he's doing a really good job. So it's actually quite amazing.
You like it a lot.
Yeah, I don't mind it so far. I was expecting it to be terrible, trash.
Because of the movie. Because of M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah, you know what? I thought M. Night Shyamalan got a raw end of the deal with the whole thing. He kind of skipped through a lot. It's a lot to put in a movie.
Yeah.
So you're always going to have people that are like disappointed when you don't touch every single point to get to a part. Like they move through the different spots, and each chapter is a book. So when he's with air or water, that's a book. And then there's earth, that's a book. And then there's fire, that's a book. And he's already the airbender. So it's all sections. So it ended up M. Night Shyamalan got a bum deal.
Okay, fair enough.
What you watching?
I'm not watching anything in particular. What I'm hoping to watch is that new Wendy Williams documentary, but I can't find it. Where in the world is Wendy Williams? Wendy Williams has recently been diagnosed with alcohol-induced dementia. If you don't know who Wendy Williams is, you know her most notably from a talk show that she had on daytime TV. But previous to that, long time back, she's been on New York City radios, and she is the queen of media. She has really conceptualized and grown the careers. I remember her sort of middle of the way through her career when Charlemagne the God was working with Wendy, because Wendy actually gave Charlemagne his jump off, his like start. So he was there cracking jokes and doing all that stuff. Wendy was there as well. So at the time, she talked about where she wanted to go with her career, and she was making the movie, and she was like just moving to daytime talk television. So like I saw the rise of Wendy Williams, I guess, and she is a notable broadcaster like in the community. So it is sad to see her in the way that she is now. And a lot of people are side-eyeing her publicist. But yeah, I just want to check it out, but I just haven't been able to find it yet. I
heard she is rumored to have been good friends with Method Man.
No, she wasn't. They were fighting.
I heard they were fighting because they had something going on.
Oh,
with
she said that she had made some like, I don't know if they actually really had anything going on, but she had like made some remarks or some comments like consistently over time.
Yep.
And yeah, he was like, "No, keep my name out of your mouth."
He's like, "Keep Method Man out your mouth."
Yep. Yeah, so that's all I got.
Yeah, the screen has been really popping. There's a lot going on. Halo has a new season out. If you're into what was on Paramount Plus but is now on Prime, if you're into the Halo series, it is good. It is cooking, especially if you are a person who likes the game Halo. It is fantastic. So I've also been watching that, and I'm trying to watch the Mike Epps comedy show. I always like to secretly watch the new comedy specials from these guys to see if they're any good. And I say secretly because there's not a lot of time, so it's a lot of listening more than watching in the car and laughing. So that's where it's at.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're listening to. I guess that's right. Well, folks, I've moved on from Black country. Not completely moved on. I'm still exploring the genre, but I've moved into Black classical music and sort of early, what is that called? 20th century, the early 1900s over there. Ragtime and...
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of composers around that time.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of piano music that happened then, and then even earlier in the late 1800s, there's a lot of Black composers that did work, and even operas that were written. So just sort of exploring exploring where we go.
Mm-hmm.
Happy Women's History Month to everybody. Women's Month is coming up. Not
Yeah,
women's,
International Women's Month.
Month, yeah. So that's coming up in March.
Yeah.
So I pretty much have 2 months back to back. February 29th is like the day of intersectionality. We just get one every 4 years.
Yeah. But
yeah, that is what I have delved into. Black classical music. If you are on Tidal, I have two playlists now. My black country playlist, and my black classical playlist.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Why you say wow?
Having two playlists. I think you just started Tidal 2 weeks ago or something like that.
I've been on Tidal for a minute, but yeah, pretty much. I built them. I searched for the music and put it into one place.
That's pretty good.
Amalgamated it. So, yeah, that's what I have.
Nice.
That's it. Are we moving on to the word?
Yeah. Do you have one?
No.
Do you have a word?
I think it's my week. I do have a word. My word is, I guess let me tell the backstory to my word. So this morning, I'm doing a lock festival. Aphrodisiac is doing a lock festival right here in Edmonton, Alberta. We're hoping to bring 1,000 people together and celebrate locks together. So I called a company and I sort of just gently pitched a couple things like, hey, it would be really good if we work together because here are the benefits for you to be working with me just as much as it is beneficial for me to be working with you. And today's word is know your worth. Understand that when you're engaging with people, when folks are engaging with you, when folks are looking up to you, coming after you, all of those things, that you have inherent value. You have inherent value regardless. Just when you wake up in the morning, you are valuable, period. That value changes depending on who you're interacting with. So it's important to remember your own worth and to make moves that honor that honor what your worth are. There's a lot of times where I was like, ooh, I don't think that I could actually put my product in a store because of whatever pretend thing I made up in my brain. But in reality, when I called that person, not only did they want my product in their store, they were trying to get my product in the last store they worked in 7 years ago. So it only took me reaching out for somebody to reflect back to me for me to realize, oh, shucks. Yeah, actually, yeah, there's value here. So that is it. Know your worth. Make sure when you're interacting with people, you know what the value of that interaction, and don't be afraid to change how much it costs to access you, your worth, your expertise. Because as time goes on, your worth increases in terms of whatever it is that you do. If you're a singer, as time goes on, you're going to be a better singer as you practice. If you play guitar, so on and so forth. If you do speeches, your speeches will get better and better as you practice as time goes on. Yep. So make sure, number one, know your worth. And number two, don't be afraid to change how much it costs to access you and your expertise. And that's what I got.
All right. Sounds great. Awesome. Yeah. That was a really good word.
Thanks, bro.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I think that's it, right?
Yeah, that's it. We'll be back next week for another round of the Black Multiverse Theory podcast.
I almost said morning show again. All right, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next week. Good night.